We have with us this morning for panelists the panel topic about collaboration, creation, responsibility, and the skills of the future. We have with us this morning John Leash. He's an innovation strategist with more than 2 decades of experience as intersection of human design and business strategy. He began his career in Dublin, pioneering new approaches to uncover growth opportunities before leading corporate innovation initiatives at Grindr and PNC Financial Services. Today, John advises organizations across industries, applying user-focused research and design methodologies to shape the next generation of products and services. He also is a volunteer that leads a team in Habits for a Better World, user research, design, and filmmaking to inspire environmental responsible behavior in the era of generative AI. Through his career, Josh has championed responsible innovation, blending technical expertise with deep commitments to sustainability. So thank you so much, John, for being here. If you can raise your hand so people know who are you.
Thank you.
And then we have Anna Canterra. She's a senior conversation designer and AI orchestration expert who builds the next generation chat, video, and agent systems. She brings design, product, and strategy to create AI that improves customer experience, streamlines operations, and delivers measurable business value. Her work spans from telecom, legal tech, healthcare prototypes, and community projects. She also has a podcast called Dane. So welcome, Anna. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Hi.
And we have DJ, an impact-driven innovation leader focused on turning advanced technologies into scalable solutions for global challenges. As an impact innovation leader at Airport, he's building a portfolio of ventures that drive environmental and social progress, most notably to combat wildfires, and protect biodiversity through AI and data-driven ecosystem. He also has a background in deep tech research, venture building, and corporate innovation. And DJ brings a unique perspective how to use technology that can intersect meaning. He also mentors at the World Food Program. Thank you, DJ, for being here with us this morning. Then we have with us also Swathi. She leads applied AI research and pre-development at Siemens Technology in India. She has over 12 years of experience. She lived in India and Germany, and she's an award-winning innovator recognized as Siemens Inventor of the Year in 2023. Her work focuses on advancing AI and data analytics while championing diversity and inclusion in tech. She's fluent in 6 languages, and she's passionate about global collaboration and brings the human touch to innovation and AI leadership. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Let's start with the panel. I want to start with one thing, and I also want to invite the audience in the chat to write what is one thing, feeling, or emotion that comes to your mind when you think about AI. One keyword per person in the panel, so start when you feel ready.
Start excitement. So that's what comes to my mind.
For me, it's optimism.
For me, it's trust.
Trust.
For me, fearful fascination.
We have in the chat conflicted, exciting, connection, for potential for growth, and loss, empowerment. Perfect. It's great to hear the different perspectives. And I think, as I mentioned before in the beginning, we're an intersection. We are like the generation that will shape how this technology looks in the future. So it's good to see we have the 2 sides of the coin, right? We have the possibility, but we also have the responsibility. And that's where the topic of responsible AI, it's very important. So based on that, I want to get every one of you, AI is evolving, the definitions are moving, what a model is defined today will change tomorrow. But I think at the core, responsibility is a word that would not change. So how would you define responsible AI in your own words as we move forward with the development and use of the technology? I want to respond from every one of you, so whoever wants to start.
I'll go. I'm happy to talk about this because I feel like I rage about this online all the time. We didn't protect children from social media very well, and we're already behind in that area. Responsible AI first comes in the form of protecting kids, and we're already not doing a good job. I would love to get everybody railing against irresponsible AI that harms children.
Yeah, follow up on disinformation and misinformation. Sora just launched a couple weeks ago, and you're seeing fake videos already. These are videos of animals attacking people. Animals are out of control if you go online. But my point being is I call this stuff out now. because unfortunately, the drawback of this new technology is we have to be a little bit skeptical about what we see and hear. And as this technology develops and as it gets better, there's a concern about how it's going to be used in a nefarious way. So I think that's where our responsibility comes into play. Get people trained to question what they're seeing and hearing before they take it as reality we're living in.
I take a cue from what I said when you asked for the first word that comes to my mind with AI, and I said fearful fascination. There's a deep admiration for the value it has created. Alongside is also fearful curiosity, anticipation of the possibilities to come, and thinking about the environment and the ecosystem through the AI life cycle, right? While designing, while developing, while deploying, while maintaining AI systems and keeping the human at the center of all this decision making, I think is what responsible AI for me is.
I can start with the environmental part, that one of the biggest challenges that we are going to face in context of implementation of AI and the next phase of AI is the energy requirement. Although it's a big challenge, I also see an opportunity in this, that in past what happened in Germany, for example, Germany did lose out the phase of moving into electromobility, and you can also see China just skipped the whole competition with respect to internal combustion engine and trying to beat Germans on that, but they went directly into electromobility. Maybe it's a point where we can also think about, if AI needs to be responsible, they need to be responsible towards environment, and that's a good point to move towards energy resilient structures which does not impact environment. So that's one aspect that I'm a bit concerned about, I would say. And the second aspect is that in history of humankind, it's first time something very interesting is happening. And that interesting part is there's a term called midlife crisis. And research shows that right now, people who are in this phase of midlife are relatively happier than those who are at a very young age, in between 15 to 25. And one of the reasons for that is how AI is moving. So a lot of them who are studying the Gen Z actually do not know what they can do later, and if the jobs they are preparing for would exist. So I see that's also a part of responsibility that we, those who might have say in AI, have to shape, as it will be too late if they are the one who have to shape it.
Yeah, I think one of the common things that I hear from you is action. We need to take action now. We have to start asking those questions. We need to start calling out. One of the things I feel like is we need to empower everyone in every single space that they are to ask those questions and to say, we're going to maintain humans in the loop. And one of the key things is like what you said, like people now, and midlife crisis is not midlife crisis anymore. Now is what the youth, the children are gonna look forward, right? Is it gonna be an engineer? Is it gonna be a doctor? So one of the things that I wanna ask you, because we want to make this topic of responsibility practical, right? So it's not about the big players to decide how AI is gonna look like. It's about us, the consumer, making choices every single day. Am I gonna use that? Call out the things that we have to call out, make the choices that we have to make. One of the things I want to ask you is, in the areas that you say responsible AI is important for you, what are actions that we as an individual and as companies can take to not put profit first, but people first?
That's a great question, but it's really hard to answer. You said disregard the big tech companies, but you can't, because they're the ones driving all this without any guardrails. There's environmental impact from all the development in AI, but when you don't have anyone that's doing anything to regulate that, there's nothing. I feel like we're disempowered to do anything when these data centers are being built, when the stock market's going crazy, that there's growth in this industry where there's declines in others. So yeah, we can do what little we can as far as responsibility for what the output's going to be. But as far as the technological development behind it, I feel like we're very constrained, and I'm disappointed because OpenAI had a very altruistic beginning. It was Elon Musk and Sam Altman getting together saying, hey, we know that AGI is coming down the road, but we're going to do something better and make sure there isn't harm. And now Elon Musk is off with Grok doing it with Grok, and everybody else is trying to catch up. I feel like your hands are tied from an individual standpoint on what we can do as far as technological development. Where we can make an effort is where the output is. Is it creating bias? Is it doing things that are going to harm society? In calling it out in those situations, it's really hard to rein in this technological development.
And we've seen tech giants get slaps on the wrists because they give money to the right politicians, and that's the root cause.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, the tech industry is one of the least regulated industries in this country.
Because we have people from Germany and India.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Sounds good.
But I'm sure we've all seen Mark Zuckerberg in the US Congress apologizing and then carrying on the next day doing exactly what he was doing the whole time.
Yeah.
That's how it works here in the US.
And it takes TJ or Swathi.
This conversation reminds me of an instance with the Austrian government recently, right? Some of you might have read in the news that late last year, the Austrian Department for Government and Welfare contracted Deloitte, right? Deloitte is a very famous consultancy to prepare a review. Mid this year, Deloitte produced a report. A large part of this was focused on improvements the Australian government should take. This also consisted of some roles that should become redundant, people whose positions should be re-evaluated. So it was met with a lot of scrutiny, and during a review which went on for several months, the Australian government found that Deloitte used AI in their work. Deloitte did not deny this. The AI employed large language models and so on. What it did is that it made up a lot of references. It invented scientists, researchers, innovators. It made up research articles, publications, and so on. The report itself looked very plausible. So without deep introspection, it would be very hard for individuals to even realize that there are discrepancies. And if enough discretion is not exercised, then in this scenario, it would have put so many people's employment and future at risk, right? So in the end, of course, Deloitte did a responsible job, took responsibility for the faults. They refunded also a large portion of the money. The entire report was redrafted, all of this. But somewhere I think it all starts by consciously making responsibility a part of the thinking process rather than as an after effect, both during the usage as well as during the development of AI systems.
Let me take a different kind of story of action. A few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine whose elder brother used to work for one of the big tech companies. He left one of these big tech companies to work for a smaller organization. So I was asking him, how did this got triggered? What was the reason? And he said, because he have two daughters. So the friend's elder brother, and the daughters were asking him on dinner table, so what are you doing to make the world a better place? Very regularly, and in a very hard discussion, he often was not managing to put a very strong reason. Why is it? And that somehow internally started to make him realize that at the end, the world I will leave, doesn't matter how much money I earn, will be lived by these two girls I have at home, whom I love the most. So what's the point of saying this story is, I think if we manage to help to get a special kind of education to the youth, they can create a huge impact when it comes to changing how things are being done. And this education might be based on topics like morality or ethics, which right now is not one of the topics that we think about, but more and more big tasks of engineering and putting a lot of technical knowledge will be going towards being automated. These are the very core human values which would come into play how the future of the planet would look like. If we look into youth education in a special way, they might have a key which can impact human beings that we don't completely have been able to gauge.
Yeah, and I like the perspective. They're big players setting up the rules, but I feel like this has to be a grassroots innovation or like request for change, right? How you're making the models more sustainable. One of the things that, as you mentioned, DJ, is education. How we cannot shape something we don't understand. If we say AI and we don't make accessible what AI means, how the models are built, how are we going to shape it? When are we educating people that, hey, what the example that you mentioned, what about Deloitte, they use that report, take it for granted and then move on along, right? Like, how are we really putting the effort of making these conscious decisions. For example, companies are there because we as a consumer are buying, right? So when are we making a choice? Do I outsource this to AI or do I outsource it to a human? We as consumers, as a people buying things also have a say. And as you say, there are big things that we could not influence directly, but I try to have these conversations. And one thing that I think it's important is what you mentioned, DJ, is coming to this humanity. What are the schools teaching about human values, morality, choices, the future? Is money worth at the end, or is it more human experience worth at the end? These are very key questions we could ask every day and answer every day with our own choices and our own lives. It sounds profound, but I feel like at this moment where the technology is, coming back to this humanity is just essential. And you want to add something, John?
That's a great point. What I'm doing with Habits for a Better World, it is a grassroots effort. It's about 300 designers, strategists, filmmakers from across the globe. We're all coming together to tackle some big challenges. One of the first things that we're tackling is how do we get people to adopt a more plant-based diet, understanding the environmental impact of meat globally. How can we create effective behavior change for people to adopt a more plant-based diet? And leveraging a chatbot using a RAG model so that we're using less energy, and then also making sure that we're curating with information that isn't getting pulled from sources that is copyrighted or we're stealing someone else's work, and making sure that the information that we're providing back to them, unlike what Deloitte did, which they did not check the output from whichever tool they use to make sure that this is correct. We're going to be making sure that the user of this chatbot is going to know what they're getting has been vetted and it is correct and it's not going to hallucinate. I can't say it's not totally going to hallucinate because I'm not a technical person, but to the degree that the other large language models do. There are efforts being made to tackle some of these things, but my point being is we're like David's going up against Goliath, and I don't think we're going to have that shot against Goliath to make much of an impact. And that's my concern.
Okay. How can we individuals help shape that?
I think we vote with our dollars and the platforms we use, right? It's very hard. Myself and a bunch of my friends try to disentangle from anything Meta, and it's really hard. We're spoiled by Amazon. Google is so entrenched in everything we do. I've had good success disentangling from Meta. I am proud to say I have used none of their products, but we vote with our dollars. And I think everything that happened with Jimmy Kimmel is proof of that. There was a huge boycott and they did an about face based on that boycott and those lost dollars. And I think that is the one thing we do have in our power to say, I am disentangling. I'm not using your product. I'm not buying what you're selling. And I think that's one thing we can all do that really makes an impact.
Yeah. And now in terms of, please feel free to suggest, because you have seen the questions. I want you to answer whatever topic you're more passionate about. You have very deep expertise in different fields, right? So I want to know from the field you're working on, how are you seeing human AI interaction being shaped? How can responsibility be implemented in for example, sustainability, in the skills of the future, in user research with you, John, with the models you're building at Swathi. So I want to get your take of where is it now, where are we going, and how can we shape it in a way that is more responsible, either with the workflows, with the decisions, with the questions, with the humans in the loop, in your respective field and areas where you think responsibility needs to be key.
I think anytime you implement AI into your work, you should have a framework in place that kind of flows along that responsibility to do that checks. Like, is there bias in this? Are there any unintended consequences that we're not thinking through? Today, it'll look like this, but in the future, as it evolves, could it cause harm in some way? And kind of use that as your guide as you're going through the development process to make sure that you're developing things responsibly. I think today I do have some positive feelings. ServiceNow has an AI ethicist on staff, and she has this mantra, go slow to go fast. I think that's a great mantra. Take the time to figure things out and think about what are the implications, not just like, we have the tech that's going to be able to do this, but what are the implications? You can speed it up when you've thought those through, but you might slow it down again because something else comes about. There's a concern here. We need to address this. Go full speed ahead and we'll figure it out when we get to the end. That's dangerous and that's concerning to me.
Thank you. Didi.
If we talk about innovation, I guess all of you have heard about these three core ideas: desirability, viability, and feasibility. One of the core elements we need to look into when we really look into innovation and innovative project is especially connected to AI is responsibility. So how responsibility is embedded in all of these journey when we do iterations to build MVPs and so on. I'm not saying it's easy because how AI impacts this innovation at different steps, this is not something which is an intuitive understanding from innovative teams. So even if they have best of their intention, they might end up doing something which is not responsible. And that's why one of the core elements we see developing is how we embed the aspect of responsibility in different steps, that you don't say, oh my God, what just happened at the end when the product have already scaled. So that's something, in my opinion, is more and more going to happen. And some companies will definitely lead through example and some will follow up. And this have happened in several other areas. If you think about finance, there were situations where there were risks and companies did learn how to deal with those risks and build a better product, financially more viable.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Awkward silences.
I was going to follow up real quick from a testing standpoint. You always test for the happy path. When you do UAT testing, you're always testing to make sure that the user journey aligns with what you developed. But you also want to test for, okay, what could go wrong? When you're doing testing in AI and you're doing test prompts, test a prompt where you're going to ask it to do something very bad or nefarious and see what the response is. And then, okay, we need to tweak this to protect it from that.
That's a good segue. When she asked the question, what's your word? I said trust. I build a lot of agents and a lot of customer service agents. We're asking people to trust us in this realm where we've done a lot to make them not trust us for years. The bad chatbot experiences, the phone loops where you can never get a human, all these things that we've done to our clientele. Now we're saying, just trust us with this. And it's not going to be that easy. Somebody who's trying to win trust back, you know what? My chatbot is actually going to solve your problem, but people are hesitant to even click in because of the history of things that they can't trust. So right now, I think we're in this apology mode of saying, we're going to build things that you can trust. The only way we can win that trust back is by consistently solving your problem and giving you good experiences. And I think we're very early in that. So people are still, oh man, that chatbot experience is going to be terrible. And it's like, give it a chance, because we're in that early stages of things getting better. But there's a lot of trust that we need in the future, where we have autonomous agents that have our credit cards and we're going to trust them to go shopping for us. And who's more responsible, my autonomous agent or my 13-year-old? We don't know. So that's why that was my word, is because there's so many different avenues of trust. We have to be reliable and trustworthy and expect our customers to trust us. We've done a lot to tear that down over the years. We don't hire user researchers anymore. We put out horrific MVPs. All that has to stop if we're going to build AI products that people will use in the future.
I'd like to pick up on what Anne just said. We're in the midst of AI, of generative AI, of agents, of agent AI, and we're noticing that systems are moving towards increased levels of autonomy and reduced levels of human involvement. But while it may sound slightly contradictory, I think what we actually need for smarter autonomous systems is accompanying human agency. When to ask for human intervention, when to take control, is something that AI should be capable of also doing. And at the same time, we as humans, we are also evolving. The way we created content in the past, the way we expressed ourselves, the way we produced music, Shlomo was talking about the way we wrote software code, all of that is also being questioned, reimagined, renovated with AI. So for me, this concept of human-centered innovation is both AI as well as humans co-evolving all with a target to move towards a more harmonious coexistence. Human, not just as a user of AI, but human also as a student of AI, as a teacher of AI, but complementing each other both somehow. And I think as individuals, as teams, we all can take meaningful steps, right? Small, big, in every stage of using AI, in also building AI. I think it was mentioned that we've all become so used to using Google search, Bing, ChatGPT on such a regular basis that we take the convenience it provides for granted. I think we also could be a bit more mindful of when to rely on AI and when to take over some of the work for ourselves. Let's not outsource everything to AI, certainly not the thinking part, not the learning part. I work now in industrial automation, safety, criticality, guardrails, all of these are extremely crucial. And we take also transparency, governance, explainability very seriously, right? So of course, like John was also pointing out, we probably are not anytime soon going to get rid of hallucination of bias in these AI systems, because of course they are also being built based on the large corpus of information we have created over decades, and that's filled with biases and hallucinations. While this will be there, I think we can still be mindful of building smaller, resource efficient models, not just for environment's sake, but also for making sure that these become more robust, trustworthy, and reliable AI systems.
Perfect. And I like 3 points that you were saying. The first one from John saying we have to slow down. We hear all the time, we're in this AI race. And we think we're in a race, but actually, no, we're not in a race. It's us making those choices. So I like that. Put frameworks in place. If they are not, I know there are being frameworks developed right now. So ask those questions in your areas. Slow down. I love the concept of human in the loop and distrust. Trust us as humans. Sometimes by automating things, we're also losing trust in our capabilities as well. What you said, when do we rely on AI and when don't? So I really like that. Let's slow down, rethink, build trust systems within us, working organizations, teams, and with the systems that we're building. So thank you so much. And that brings me to the question of, we spoke about agentic, we spoke about automation. A lot of companies want to do automation because it's cost reduction, right? And a lot of people is afraid of what is going to happen to my job. And one of the questions that I want to ask you is, what are the skills we have to, and we touched a little bit before that with DJ, what he said about teaching the new generation, but what are the skills that we see are important in the future as we educate our kids, as Anna mentioned, protect them from things that could happen with this technology? I read a report that by 2030, companies will have to have human quota. So that many humans should need to be employed. And I found that sad, because how can we move to, right, like more a number? So I just want to, like, your last take on the skills. How do we shape a future that is brighter for everyone with technology as a tool and not a replacement?
Give an interesting example that a few years ago we worked with a AI startup. So my background is I used to do venture capital investment as part of Bosch. We had a special project where it's surprising, but in Europe there are a lot of production line where if a part is okay or not heavily depends on the person who is standing there. So if he or she had a very bad night, a lot of parts might be not okay, and vice versa. This is where AI can play a crucial role, as assimilation and integration of very complex data is way easier for AI than humans. But when we initially wanted to install this system, Workers' Council said this might take out jobs. How can you do that? The fact is, when we went to that factory line workers, a lot of them don't want to do that. They do it because they do not have any other job. Who likes to stand at a place and keep on looking at certain structures saying it's okay or not? Most people won't like to do that. So they are ready to upskill. But on the other hand, you also have to keep your business running, which provides enough profit that you can upskill them. If we don't think in this circular model of how do I on one side create profit and also use that profit to upskill, so to explore new areas, the whole structure of upskilling won't work. So we need to have that mindset of really going towards an upskilling process. The other part I want to mention is probably we are moving towards a future. If you run a barista, the perfect barista might be made by a machine. You don't need too many people to make it. But where this might become a very critical point is having those few people inside the barista who have the empathy to ask someone if they are okay or not at an age of 60 who is every day coming to that barista. So that human element would add the value that we right now mostly see how we can add value by reducing cost. I think the future will be more towards how we can add value by adding empathy rather than just reducing cost of production.
The empathy part of it. I love a new model.
I speak to a lot of designers who are trying to find their footing for the future. In AI, things change very fast. Bot optimization experts, knowledge engineering, AI orchestration experts. I put a ton of content out about all of this. There is so much that I've put out around this, but I think one of the things that we have to grassroots demand is companies taking those people who no longer have work and upskilling them the way IKEA did. I don't know if anybody's aware what IKEA did, but they took their call takers and upskilled them to be designers, to walk people through purchasing furniture and choosing paint. And those kind of initiatives, I think, are very hopeful. But I think that's the kind of thing that we have to demand and say, okay, you're going to let go of 20,000 call takers. What are you going to do with them? I think there might have to be a percentage that have to be upskilled. But I also don't think there's going to be any shortage of jobs around building AI products. And I think we're just getting our footing and people are a little misplaced figuring out what are the new skills I need to keep working. And those skills are out there. I did it myself. I taught myself everything I needed. I have an associate's degree in culinary arts and I work in AI. So if I can do it, anybody can.
I love that empowerment and the reframing, killing, yes. 100%.
I agree with both DJ and that empathy and fields like knowledge engineering, data strategy, the quality of data and AI orchestration are becoming more essential. For a long time, all of these were considered somehow soft skills or technical or hard skills were seen as more superior and in demand. But now that AI has been demonstrating that a large portion of this can be automated potentially, making some of this at least redundant, I think that there's quite a bit of need for us to upskill, to reskill. We need to pay attention to all of this. And in the race of making these machines learn, I think we shouldn't forget learning ourselves. Most important of all, and we started off by talking about children, right? I think the most important skill, not just for children, but all of us also as adults, is to be able to tell the difference between what's not. The skill of distillation, I think it's going to be very challenging, but also very critical as we move forward.
Similar to Anne, my background was in innovation and human-centered design from a research and strategy perspective. I've been doing research for many years and got assigned a project developing AI for a cash forecasting product. I knew a little bit about what AI is, but was reliant on my data scientist to guide me through what's a model, what's train a model. And what I did is I found a free course taught by Armand Rouet from IBM. An AI bootcamp. It was like 6 weeks long. In that, I was exposed to all the different tools. I used Midjourney to develop imagery. I trained a model. I created a chatbot. And the funny thing is, this was 2-3 years ago. I'm sure a lot of that's already outdated. You have to continually keep up on what's going on. I know Ann and I have had a conversation about this before. How do you stay on top of all the developments that's going on in AI? Get the email newsletter from TechCrunch. Check it every week. They do a summary of all the big developments of the week. Find a good course that you can take. A lot of them are free. Some of them, if you want to get a certificate, go to Coursera. You can find Andrew Nye's course on there, AI for everyone, generative AI for everyone, machine learning for everyone. Those are great courses. If you want a certificate, you have to pay for it, but you can matriculate and not even pay it. The point is you need to get this knowledge. You need to understand the vernacular. You need to understand when you're in these conversations, what everything means from a technical standpoint. But what I bring to the mix is I come from the human-centered standpoint. So I'm always have the human in mind when I'm coming to working on different products and developments. I think that's where you have to have a balance of those skills. But even for those who were heavy on empathy and human-centeredness, you need to get more technical. You don't have to necessarily code, but you need to get more technical and be able to say, instead of using this large language model, that's going to use a lot of data. Let's use a small language model. You need to be able to make those types of calls and meetings as well. It can't be just tech does is responsible for tech and the designer's only in charge of design. You need to have the melding of those skill sets.
And let me just piggyback on John real quick. AI fatigue is so real and so bad that I started an AI support group and I've been doing it for a year. Most of the time people come in exhausted. Sometimes they don't know what's important. There's so much noise. What should I focus my energy on? Because all the noise is confusing and exhausting and I'm fatigued. We do that one Tuesday a month. We meet. It's pretty popular and everybody feels better afterwards, because one of the things I think we need is that human support, especially now. It was just something that came from the need of the people and it's very helpful. So everybody's welcome. Just hit me up with a DM and I'll send you an invite.
Perfect. I take a lot with me from what you said. Learn the technology, not just to be able to shape it and make informed choices. So that's good. Upskilling, empathy, and turn down the noise. We're not in a race. They want us to be in a race, but we're not. Take time to adapt and evolve with these new technologies. I love that. And as a final thought, I want each of you to tell me one bold prediction or something that you want people to walk away with to implement right after this session is.
Mine's a very specific prediction that piggybacks on what you were discussing about going fast. I think all those tech companies are trying to get to AGI as quickly as possible. They're doing it. Break things, fix it later. If anyone's been following Apple lately, there's been a lot, oh, they're so far behind. Oh, they're never going to catch up. That's what Apple's really great at. My bold prediction is they're going to take the lead at some point on AI because they're doing that go slow, go fast, and they're going to get it right. That's what's going to make a big difference. So that's my bold prediction, that Apple's going to be a leader in AI within a year or two.
That's great. Anyone else? DJ?
My bold prediction is that things created by actual humans will be at a premium in the future. Make something with your hands, get your feet in the grass and unplug and take care of your mental health. Go take care of yourself, get out in nature, make things with your hands. I don't care if it's bread. I don't care if it's art. I don't care if it's music. Just do something to fill that human need to create. I think that will do wonders for people's mental health.
I think the most important part will be to be very clear about the fundamentals of how the world works. So maybe in physics or chemistry, I think the aspect of how to think from first principle ways of dealing with challenges would become very critical. And I don't think it will change. It doesn't matter what kind of AI we face. In context of predicting how dominant and bold topics would come up with AI, my belief is that we will have way more focus on nature as a capital rather than the physical wealth that present dominates a lot of topic, because we see that things which are connected to nature are getting heavily impacted. And when you are hit with flood, you do not try to mess with other things. That reality will help us connect more with nature and respect nature more.
I love that connection with nature.
I think what I hope for more than anything is for us to not get carried away and to take responsibility while becoming companions with AI. I think what we're already seeing in the new generation, some decades ago, there was a huge shift to compete, to race, to move forward. We're already seeing that in the next generation, things are slowing down, not in the sense of not being more intellectually capable, but somehow wanting to slow down. And I think that will tend to continue, be it in terms of connecting more with self-awareness, mindfulness, and so on, or be it with connecting with nature, being more mindful of the ecosystem of others. I think that will become more, and the human connection part, which has been depleting quite a bit in recent times and in past years especially, is likely to come back in this age of AI.
I love that prediction. More human connection. Perfect. Thank you very much for your time. It was very insightful. I learned a lot. I hope everyone here learned something. And I love the fact that I feel relief. We're not in a race, so let's not rush to anything. That's what I'm taking, and let's keep in touch with our humanity and what is true in the world. So thank you so much, and I'll hopefully see you around. Feel free to connect. LinkedIn, happy to do that, and has a podcast, so feel free to check it out as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and I'm sure it's not the first time we'll talk about these topics. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for taking us together in the journey. Later.